Now, at GMetri, what we've done is we've created a really ridiculously simple toolkit that allows you to create all of this, to publish it, and actually run analytics on this. And some amazing metaverses are built on our platform, including virtual worlds for the likes of PayPal, Amazon. We've done the COVID vaccine manufacturing. We've worked on just 1 second. I think I was not sharing my screen, so you might not have been seeing everything, but we've been working on things like COVID vaccine manufacturing. GMetri is fully integratable with e-commerce, so you can do quite a few interesting things within this entire world. And you could also, we give you the creation tools that allow you to build this really quickly, publishing tools so that you can run this like I am on my browser or within your LMS or within any third-party tools within your app, on a headset, and everything's pretty much out of the box. And we give you really cool analytics, so you can see how people are coming in, how they're interacting with your three-dimensional worlds, so on and so forth. So it does a really good job. So GMetri kind of gives you everything you need, the infrastructure you need to be able to create this. I want to really quickly show you this. One of the experiences that I think is really cool, and I think it would definitely show you the extent of what is possible on GMetri. This is a virtual three-dimensional shopping experience because that truly showcases the prowess of what the software toolkit can do. So I think it's a beautiful world. The Soul Store is a merchandising brand that's really popular. And if you like any of the merchandise that you see over here, you can actually click on it. Now, when I click on anything, I actually see the data coming in from an API, which is coming from the side of the seller, and I can choose an option, a variant, or a size, and I can add to cart right from within this interface. And I would be able to go ahead and buy this. This is one of the e-commerce use cases, but I think it's really powerful as well. But it's something that you can integrate end-to-end on GMetri. In fact, we've been a part of a lot of cool experiences that allow us to that have allowed us to create an entire digital twin or a metaverse around the city as well. We're doing the metaverse of the city of Bangalore, which I think has been extremely successful in bringing the metaverse concept out to the urban scale as well. GMetri is the underlying tech that's used for that. The use cases are far and wide and range from everything from virtual meetings in these rooms to to virtual retail and e-commerce, to learning and development, like we saw before. If you guys have any use cases that you might want to see, we can probably, if you've got time, bucket out a little bit of time towards the end to be able to go through these. Right? But now it's actually back to to something that we want to do today. Now, what I'm seeing on my screen is the GMetri portal, or where all the magic really begins. You can all just sign up for GMetri accounts. I'm assuming most, if not all of you, have already done that. So this should be a familiar screen. If not, you can go over to gmetri.com and subscribe for an account, and you would be able to do that really quickly, right? So let's do face, and let's just jump into, let's create an experience that on this account that allows you to kind of come in and get this blank slate to start with, right? Now, this is a virtual three-dimensional world that you can start building from scratch. Now, this is the editor, and we're going to go through a few basics of the UI itself. But before that, do remember, this is me editing right now, but multiple people can edit and create content at the same time as well. So this is a little bit like Google Docs, where all of us can jump in together and start to create content as well. And we give you this infinite space to start with, but of course, you've got a ton of templates that you could choose. And also a lot of third-party assets that you could start to begin with. One of the most important buttons that you're going to see is this add button that's on the top left of your screen, right? Which gives you a list of all the cool things that you could add to your scene. So you can add different types of scenes. You can add 360 images or videos as a backdrop. You can add regular images and videos. You can add audio, text-to-speech, 3D models. You can have polygons. You've got zones, colliders, augmented reality, scoring, timers, quizzes. You can add the ability to capture input from the users. All of these are what we call a GMetri elements. Elements are what will make your scenes amazing, interactive, and a lot of fun for the people who are coming in, right? It's important to start off with understanding three types of scenes at GMetri, but I think the most important ones are the 360 and the 3D. It's a basic webinar, so we're going to just cover the most important and essential things to be able to take more questions. But what I've just done is I've added a 3D scene. Now, when I add a 3D scene, it automatically picks out this default room, and it sets up a few basic things for me, including this blue mesh, which is basically which is something that you will be able to get out of as an editor, but the viewers of this experience will not be able to walk outside this space. But of course, as an editor, you will be able to see what's up in this world. I can start out by replacing this with anything I want. So I can click on this room, the 3D model, and I will see that this is the environment, which is a 3D model. And I could replace that by clicking on that file, and I could replace it with any 3D model that I upload that is in a GLB format. Or I've got lots and lots of free Creative Commons licensed 3D models via Sketchfab that I could search for. So I could search for anything. If anyone has got any ideas, please type them into the chat. I think someone's asking if we can add a 3D model in OBJ. No, OBJ is not so web compatible. So you can, but here's the best part: GLBs and OBJ are very easy to switch out. So you can just install Blender, drop your OBJ, export as a GLB, and you will be done. It's a really quick process. In fact, there are a lot of online converters that will take your OBJ and convert it into a GLB. But I usually prefer to go the Blender route, because if you've got any issues on your textures, I think Blender is really good at fixing them. So I would go from OBJ to GLB via Blender. That's what I would recommend, but do try some of the free online converter tools as well. So if anyone has any ideas in terms of what we're going to be building, we can look at tons of options, but maybe since we started out with a meeting room today, I can search for offices, or maybe I can search for a meeting room. Let's say we want to create something that's good to have a nice discussion or a conversation in. I think there are a lot of these nice spaces that are really cool. Now, whenever you click on a 3D model, just make sure you're seeing the size. So this one's 5 MB, which is really nice, because 5 MB because that means literally everyone's going to be able to jump into it almost right away. I see some other spaces which are even lighter, 2 megabytes, and I think these are good. So I'm gonna, whatever I like, I'm gonna go ahead and click import. And as soon as I do that, I'm gonna see a message that says it's importing it, and then it's eventually imported. So once it's done, I could just click that message that pops up to go directly to my imports, or I could click on my assets, and anything I import from any of these libraries will show up in this blue folder over here that says my imports. And of course, I just imported a 3D model, so I can go into 3D models. And we do a lot of webinars, so of course there's a lot of content over here, but anything that you ever import should show up over here, right? And I think I'm just trying to find that one in this wish, but I think quite a few. What was it called? I think it was this one, meeting space. Another important thing is once you import it, you will also start seeing a few more details in terms of triangles and vertices. And we would recommend not going above 50,000. 50,000 to 100,000 is okay, and it would work well on most devices. But those optimizations are important, because to remember, these experiences need to work maybe someday on not so powerful a device as well, because anyone can jump in. So I would recommend keeping the triangles count under 50,000. It's okay till 100,000. We don't limit you, by the way. So if you know that, hey, people are going to join in from powerful computers only, you could come in and choose whatever you want, but that's what we would recommend. What I did is I just went ahead and added this, And what I see is this model got added over here, but of course it's not the right scale. So we might want to fix that really quickly. And you can do that just by seeing, obviously the scale is off over here. So you'll see it's 0.05 over here. I'm going to try and take it to 1, right? Which is obviously not always going to work. You would be able to see how, in a few different, over a few permutations and combinations, how that would work. So try setting the scale. And you can also move this environment around by going down to transform and moving this up or down, right? So I'm going to take the y to, I think, minus 0.1, which kind of just aligns my mesh very nicely over here. And I think that's really cool. So I have the space pretty much in a nice scale right now. I think we've got a really nice gallery as well. So this is a rather nice space. I think it was a good find. The first thing that you want to do is you want to set up your bounds, right? Let's head over to the chat. Yeah, so welcome. Now what do you want to do? The first thing is set up your bounds. Now, what are your bounds? Those are these. That's this, this mesh that the viewer cannot walk outside of. Just to demonstrate that perfectly, I'm just going to preview this by hitting the play button on the top right, and I will not be able to walk past this blue mesh as a viewer, right? So that's something that we might want to, correct, and that's really easy to fix if you go over to structure, right? So structure is kind of like, layers on Photoshop, or something that helps organize all of your different scenes very nicely. So you can have infinite scenes, by the way, and you can add as many elements inside it. Of course, some are available by default, and you will be able to set all of them up and organize them and arrange them using using this right part. You can come in and set this up. Now, what I need to do is I need to set up the bounds. So I'm going to click on the scene and go up to properties, where I will start seeing this section called bounds. And the bounds are in the X, Y, and Z direction. And we've got this neat helper to tell you which is which, right? So this blue axis is the Z direction, this is the X direction, and Y is obviously up. So you can just fix this really quickly, right? So click the scene, click properties. So X, negative X is going out of this. So instead of minus 15, I'm going to try to type out a minus 10. And maybe a minus 5. Or I can use the arrow keys, of course. So in order to kind of just reduce this a little bit. So this is minus 6, minus 7, and the maximum, I could increase this a little bit until it just goes out of this space. So yeah, that's not bad. So just really quick. On the Z, I want to make sure that the negative Z is going up so that people can actually is going lower, so people can actually walk outside the space into the open area as well. And I want to take this number down so that people can walk inside. So yeah, that's me really quickly setting up the bounds. And once we have our space, you might want to also set the viewer height to whatever you want. So I noticed when I was in the other scene that I would have preferred something a little lower. So I can just reduce. And we're ready to actually welcome people inside the space, and all of us can jump into it and have a conversation. And how do you do that? You can go in by clicking the publish button right here, right? And when I publish, I would be able to click this button that says new deployment. And the moment I do that, I get a lot of these cool options. I can set the authentication. I can set location tracking on this, so I can know where people are coming in from. Disable that for privacy right now, but we would be able to do that. I can set collaboration, so I want to welcome all of you guys into this space. So I'm going to enable the multiplayer mode. That's the host link for me, where I get a few additional options. And I definitely want you guys to be able to talk to me. So that's audio, that's screen share, that's chat. And I can send out notifications to you from here. And I don't want room instancing right now. I think one room is more than enough over here. So we've hit the 30-minute limit, but what I've done is I've just created a nice virtual room that you guys can all jump into. And I can actually see you on the other side over here. Yeah, we're recording this tutorial. So the best thing is you'll get this very webinar available. So if you come on to our Discord, you will find this set up really easily. So for those of you wanting to try this on your, on your phone, you can just scan the QR code. I've also dropped this link on chat, so you can actually jump in and see this. And yeah, feel free to scan this QR, or I'm going to also jump into this room where it is asking me for my name, and I would be able to find myself within this cool room, and I can see some people are already there, and and you can walk around within this space. And let's get to a few, few setup questions over here that we might have. Yeah, this is how easy it was, by the way, for me to set this up, and enable join call and screen share, and a lot of other cool things. But you might want a few other things to be set up right within this. And I think one of the most important things is having a good view, because we've got a really nice outdoor space over here. So I most definitely want to find something that looks good, right? So I'm going to go back and I'm going to go over to the structure of my scene. And by default, I already have a panoramic image, right? I'm going to go to the properties of this panoramic image and choose something that helps me make it look like we're actually in a cool space. So I could either upload my own panoramic image, but we've got Flickr, which is a really cool integration. And because it looks like we're somewhere, we're a little above the ground, I can just choose something called aerial, and I can choose a view that I think looks nice. I could click on any of these. Again, this is user-generated content from Flickr, so it may you've got to try it a little bit. Maybe something's not the resolution you were hoping for. Maybe something's too high resolution and too huge for what you're looking for. So, of course, you'll have to do a few permutations and combinations. But I mean, most times you always find something that works well. So again, I'm going to head back to my assets, go over to the blue folder, and anything coming in from Flickr would go into your images tab. So you can find that over here. And I think this is the one that I imported. It's a 2048 into 102 for image, 500 kilobytes. So I'm really happy with those resolutions. And the moment I add that, I get this amazing view. So you can set that up, and as an editor, I can go outside. But also, I immediately realized that that's not possibly the best view out of the space that I could give my users. I could really quickly go out and switch the yaw of this, right? So I can rotate this to just switch the view. I think there's a little bit of ocean there, so I think I really enjoy that. So that's a better view. So I want them to step out a little bit more. So if you remember, probably the bounds that I can work with, right? And I can work towards the negative Z, a little lower, so so that you can walk out a little bit and see what that looks like. So, yeah, so now I have a view, right? And what we did was just add the panoramic image. Remember, you can always add a panoramic video as well to make it look pretty cool. And we've just set up a really nice room. Now, one of the things that I want to point out is the stuff that is in your structure. So there's a zone element in this, right? Which is over here, and I think it's obscured by this. So I'm going to turn the environment off temporarily so I can see it. Now, this is basically being used as your spawn point, or the point where you start the journey from, so I could move it out. I can get this neat gizmo by clicking on translate or rotate over here. By default, you're on drag, so it's easy to move stuff around. But if you want to be precise in how and where you're moving stuff, you can set stuff on translate. You can find this over here. And I think I've moved the zone out over here because I want my people to walk in from this space. Of course, if you don't want this green color, or if you want it to look, not be visible, you can turn the opacity probably down to 0. And that would still work fine, right? So you can have this entire thing up and running over here. And let's say now you want someone actually welcoming you to the space. Now here's the coolest stuff. You can actually add a host to this by adding a video element, right? So I can add a video element. I think it just got added behind that screen there. So I'm going to pull that out, and you can upload any video that you want. And we've got a ton of videos that I already have shot on a green screen, but you can shoot these. They're really ridiculously simple to shoot. In fact, I shot this from my own phone, and you could choose this, and you could bring this video into this scene right now. And the moment you do that, you could actually go out and check the box that says green screen, and you can set that up, and you can now position her wherever you want. And now I have somebody standing in the scene, and I could position them very easily over here. But yeah, so video is a two-dimensional element, right? So if you actually go on this side, you can see that she's two-dimensional. So just to work with these things, we've got a few tricks. And the one that we're going to use here is something called face camera. It's going to be under the properties of the video that we just had. And you're going to go out and say align y-axis. What that means is she's actually going to look at me wherever I am. So it looks a little natural, and you could, just add this stuff. So it makes it really cool. Now, here's the best thing. I want her to speak to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add maybe an emoji element, right? And that's something that I'm going to position. Now, of course, positioning this can be tough. So once I've, what I can do is because I want it to be over here on top of her head, I can click on this video, and I can, to the right of transform, you've got copy transform values. And I can click on the emoji, and I can click on paste transform values, which kind of pastes it exactly where she is. I could use the same trick, which is face camera, align y-axis, to make sure that I'm always looking at this. I'm going to turn this a little smaller. My intention was to use the chat emoji so that it looks like she wants to speak. And I can position this over here, and I can add a nice bounce animation on this so that it looks like she wants to speak. And again, you can scale this down if you think that's a good idea. And I could go out now to what we call a GMetri rules to set this up. So I can set a new rule. My rule is simple. When the emoji, or it says icon over here, is clicked, then the video should play. Isn't that what we wanted, right? So you make sentences on GMetri. So when the icon is clicked, the video should play. But if you are like me, a stickler for user experience, I want to do a few other things. So when the icon is clicked, I also want this to disappear because she's going to be speaking at the time, right? And I also want this icon to come back, because what if I want to talk to her again? So I'm going to add another rule, and I'm going to say when the video ends, I want the icon to appear, right? So if that doesn't make sense as yet, it will make sense right now, where I'm going to just refresh. By the way, all of you guys who are already on this can just refresh to see my latest changes and have a conversation with the lady. So I'm just jumping into this experience, and I'm going to start from a different location, which is the corner of the room. Remember, we changed the position of the zone, right? And I'm going to come in, and I'm going to see this lady right here, right? And I could walk up to her, and I could click on this, and it disappears, but also she starts talking. And not only that, once she stops talking, I see this pop up, right? And if you've got any questions, now's the time to ask it, because what we did was these two simple rules, as we call them, to trigger that behavior. So when the icon is clicked, the video started playing, and the icon itself disappeared. But when the video ended, the icon could appear. And if I want to track this, all I have to do is I've got to check the box that says analytics, and I would be able to see all that under the analytics tab, which is one of the coolest features that we offer. I know right now I've got 8 views and 8 viewers from distinct locations and geographies. If you remember, I turned the location tracking off for privacy, but I would be able to see if I had that feature on where you are. And I would be, well, not exactly, these are Google locations, so where Google thinks you are, to be more precise. And we could have gotten a leaderboard and rules and a lot of these other things going. What are scores? You can actually add interactive elements inside this, use the score element to go one level deeper. But I think we're also hitting the last 10 minutes of this conversation.